It's that time again. It's time for me to do my 2024 MLB World Series full season predictions. We're going through every division, predicting where every team will finish, as well as predicting who the MVP, Cy Young, and Rookie of the Years will be in each league, go through the entire playoffs, and eventually give you my World Series champion. I gotta say, this year, even though everyone's picking the Dodgers, this feels like one of the hardest seasons that I've actually had to predict in a while, because there's a lot of uncertainty outside of like two teams I feel like that are guarantees. You'll just have to wait and see what I pick. As always with these videos, a lot of time and effort goes into them, so if you could drop a like, or if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, either of those would be very much appreciated and help support what I do over here, as well as following me on my social media at GiraffeNeckMarc. Links are in the description. So without further ado, let's get it started this time in the National League, going with the NL East. And coming in 5th place in the National League East, I've got the Miami Marlins. I know I've been coming off a bit as a Marlins hater this offseason, but I really think this team is not very good. Losing Sandy Alcantara, there's just no way that this team can perform like they did last year. Jesus Luzardo is right on the borderline of either becoming one of the best pitchers in baseball or completely falling off again. Yuri Perez is going to be on an innings limit. He's absolutely disgusting, there's no doubt about it. But the rest of that rotation, it has major question marks, and this lineup, let's be honest, is not very good. Like, we're relying on Tim Anderson to do some significant damage this year. There's no way Luis Arraez hits 340 again. He's good, but he's not going to be that good again. And if he is, I mean, maybe I'll eat my words. Josh Bell and Jake Berger are great, but again, I don't know how consistent and how realistic it is to expect the Marlins to play as well as they did last year, considering they didn't even really play that well. So I'm putting them in last place. I'm right now not a big believer. For 4th place in the National League East, I'm going with the Washington Nationals. Now, I'm actually a little bit higher on the Nationals than most. I think that there is a decent little core building down in Washington that can make playing them a little bit tougher to win this year. CJ Abrams is fantastic. He had a great season last year. Low-key, really good at shortstop. Lane Thomas, great outfielder. Keibert Ruiz is coming into his own behind the plate. I will never give up on Luis Garcia Jr. He's going to figure it out one year. And some veteran additions like Joey Gallo, Jesse Winker, even an Eddie Rosario, I think is going to help this team just raise their bottom line. Plus on the pitching side, Josiah Gray's solid. Patrick Corbin is whatever. He's going to give you innings. Mackenzie Gore, I think this could be his breakout season. And there are definitely some prospects coming up the pipeline that can make an appearance this year. So do I think the Nationals are a playoff team? No, but I think they are better than the Marlins right now. Or at least will play better than them. For 3rd place in the National League East, we're going with the Philadelphia Phillies. No, I'm kidding. I wish I could. We're going with the New York Mets. As much as a biased Homer Mets fan as I am, I can't even muster up the courage to put them anywhere higher than 3rd right now in this division. While the offense I still think is pretty good, you have Nimmo, Lindor, Alonso, Francisco Alvarez is a stud, and you're expecting bounce back years from guys like Jeff McNeil and Starling Marte. The pitching is what really scares me, and especially on the starting pitching side when Jose Quintana is going into the season as our opening day starter. There's uncertainty about Kodai Senga's injury right now, and we're relying on getting big innings out of Luis Severino, Sean Manaea, Adrian Hauser, Tyler McGill. I don't think this team's going to be bad. I think they could win 82, 83 games. But right now, they're not as strong as the teams that we've seen in the past, and I just can't put them ahead of the other two teams in this division. As for 2nd place, you heard me just mention them. That's going to be Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies just are not better than the Braves, who of course are going to come in 1st place. They're still a really good team, but there obviously are question marks with this team as well. I know defensively they've gotten better, but defensively still, they're not one of the better teams in the league. Kyle Schwarber moving to DH will definitely help because they now get to use Johan Rojas and Brandon Marsh in the outfield, but I can't imagine those guys are going to have as good of seasons as they did last year. I expect Bryson Stott to take a step back. Alec Boehm is like so completely mediocre. Harper, Realmuto, Turner, Schwarber, those guys are legit. Castellanos I'm not sure on yet. And Wheeler, Nola, Ranger Suarez is a really good 1-2-3. But similarly, that bullpen I still think has question marks. I think the back end of that rotation has some question marks. They're still very good though. And then of course in 1st place, it's going to be the Atlanta Braves. The Braves are just the best team in baseball, and you go through this lineup and it's absolutely disgusting. Sean Murphy and D'Arnaud at catcher, Matt Olson at 1st, Albies at 2nd, 3rd base, Austin Riley. In the outfield, you've got Ronald Acuna Jr., you've got Michael Harris, you've got Jared Kelenic and Adam Duvall, who are going to be platooning out there. Got Marcelo Ozuna, who's a bad guy off the field, but on the field, 40 home runs. I mean, that's the thing that happened. Their pitching, I think, is low-key pretty good. Like Max Fried's solid, Charlie Morton's really good, Spencer Strider obviously is arguably the best pitcher in baseball. And their bullpen, while it doesn't look maybe sexy on paper, I think is actually a lot stronger than we think. This is clearly the best team in the National League East, easily in 1st place. Moving on now to the National League Central, and getting us started in 5th place, I've got the Milwaukee Brewers. I don't really like this pick, but it's just a gut feeling that I've had, especially because I think they're going to start to move more and more pieces as the season goes on. Guys like Willy Adames, I can't imagine ends the season on the team. Even a guy like Rhys Hoskins, who they signed to a short-term deal, I can't imagine he ends the season on the team. With a rotation that's led by Freddie Peralta, who's a stud, the rest of the guys are really big question marks. This lineup has a bunch of question marks. It's very young. I just don't think they're ready right now. I could see things going south for this team, and ownership and the front office just selling off the pieces they can to work on that rebuild, because they can actually rebuild quicker because of how good their young players are, if that makes any sense. Shout out Jackson Chourio. I think he's going to have a great year, though. In 4th place, moving up a little bit, I've got the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think the Pirates are going to have a sneaky decent year where they're going to be very competitive this season. O'Neal Cruz looks phenomenal in spring training. Like, what he's been able to do could be revolutionary revolutionary for his game. It can make him into one of the elite shortstops possibly if he's able to walk like he has been. You know how much I love Key Brian Hayes. I think the breakout is coming. Just hit the ball in the air. Brian Reynolds, Jack Sawinski, McCutchen, Henry Davis, Rowdy Tellez, like they've made some good moves, have some good players. The pitching's where you get worried. But Paul Skeens is going to get called up, and Paul Skeens looks disgusting. Mitch Keller just got paid. He's been great. Martin Perez and Marco Gonzalez are like bad, but they're going to be able to eat innings for you. So guys like Jared Jones could maybe call up, get an opportunity. I think the bullpen is sneaky better than you think. They have some really interesting arms out there. Dave Bednar's still awesome. Holderman, Chapman, even Rowanzi Contreras. And they just got that group of young guys that's on their way up, being led by Paul Skeens. That makes them an exciting team. So I'll put them in fourth. Third place, I'm going with the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't see how this team is better than they were last year, and they were ass last year. Like, even if they're 10 games better than they were last year, which I don't necessarily know if they are, that's 81-81 on the season. So I don't see how the Cardinals are just going to have this huge turnaround. The starting pitching is still not great. It's better. Like, Sonny Gray is by far the best pitcher they've had in the last 2 years. Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, like those guys are better. They're still boring. They're still ugh. And I expect a better season from guys like Jordan Walker and Brendan Donovan, but like Paul Goldschmidt was concerningly bad to end the year. Nolan Arenado's another year older, and he was a little bit shaky last season. Alec Burleson, Dylan Carlson, Mason Wynn, like these aren't guaranteed good hitters right now in this lineup. I'm not really a believer in the Cardinals, but I do think that they're at the middle of the pack right now. In second place, I've got the Cincinnati Reds. I really like this Reds team. I love Ellie De La Cruz. I think he's destined for a breakout season. We saw him kind of slow down a little bit last year. He's going to bounce back. Matt McClain is awesome. TJ Friedel is awesome. I love Jamer Candelario. I think he's going to pop off in Cincinnati. Spencer Steer, Will Benson was really good. Christian Encarnacion Strand was fantastic. So much power there. I love this lineup. And then on the starting pitching side, like low key, really good rotation. It's just tough, obviously, in Cincinnati because of the ballpark. But Frankie Montas, I think he'll be good. Hunter Green, this could be the year maybe where he goes into that elite status as a pitcher because the stuff is so good. Graham Ashcraft, great depth. Nick Martinez, great depth with good innings. Andrew Abbott looked really good. Nick Lodolo is going to be coming back at some point. And then the bullpen, like I love Alexis Diaz. Lucas Sims got a good arm. Emilio Pagan was a good pickup. Brent Suter was a good pickup. Noelvi Marte will eventually come back from steroid suspension. I like what the Reds are cooking in Cincinnati, and I think they're a second place team right now, which means coming in first place, I have the Chicago Cubs. And while you could say this offseason was a little bit disappointing considering they spent all this money on a manager and then really brought back Cody Bellinger and Shota Imanaga, I think this is a pretty solid team. Nico Horner, Seiya Suzuki, Ian Happ, Cody Bellinger, Swanson, Christopher Morel, Jan Gomes, Michael Busch. Probably going to get Pete Crow Armstrong back at the majors at some point. Maybe Alex Canario. A little concerned about Jameson Taillon having that back injury right now, but the rotation is boring but good with Justin Steele, Shota Imanaga, Kyle Hendricks, Jordan Wicks, Hayden Wesneski. The bullpen, low-key's got some arms. Again, Adbert was great. Julian Merriweather's got electric stuff. Nerys was a good addition. Yancy Almonte was great. Javier Assad's a good reliever. Like, they have some fun little players, along with some prospects that are pushing close to the major league level. I think the Cubs are the best team in this division, and I don't necessarily think it's even close. Which has us now moving on to the National League West, and clearly easiest pick is going to be the Rockies in fifth place. Yeah, the Rockies stink. This is just like not a good team. I want Chris Bryant to be healthy. He will definitely help as long as he's on the field, and Nolan Jones is really good along with my boy Ezekiel Tovar, who I love. I know he's going to turn around, but the rest of this team is either old or just shouldn't be starting at the major league level. And then on the pitching side, it's a mess. I mean, this rotation is terrifying, and so is this bullpen. They might give up the most runs we've seen in a while, especially playing half their games in Coors, especially in the loaded National League West division. Because coming in fourth place, and I don't feel good about it, I have the San Francisco Giants, simply because their starting pitching to me does not feel good enough right now. If they go out and get a Blake Snell, which is what makes these videos weird because there are still some good players available, but if they sign a Blake Snell, Montgomery, I think this changes their bottom line. But right now, Logan Webb is kind of their only real major league starting pitcher. Otherwise, you have Kyle Harrison, who I think is very good, but obviously a rookie. Jordan Hicks was a reliever. I don't know how that's going to work. Keaton Wynn, Mason Black, Alex Cobb's on the shelf, Sean Jelly, Tristan Beck, Robbie Ray. Like, what are we going to do with this rotation? Bullpen-wise, Doval and the Rogers brothers are obviously great, but there's a lot of question marks besides them. And at the plate, I think they're going to be completely fine. Jung-Woo Lee should be a fun, interesting addition to see how he adjusts to the major leagues. I think he'll be good. Matt Chapman has been inserted into this lineup, but Jorge Soler as well. But I don't know. It's just like going to be really rocking Nick Ahmed right now at shortstop. Marco Luciano hasn't looked great. So I actually had to re-record the Giants part here because they now signed Blake Snell. Granted, it doesn't really change how I feel about this team. I think that this team is good. I think this is a team that can make the playoffs. But right now, I just have this feeling that the Padres are going to be a little bit different this year. But I love the moves that the Giants made. I think they made a lot of really good ones, but I do have them finishing in fourth place. Third place in the National League West, I'm going with the San Diego Padres. I actually think the Padres are a pretty good team this year, better than we might expect. I wish they didn't trade Juan Soto, because if they didn't, I think this is a team that could be a World Series contender, especially with the Dylan Cease trade that they just made, because the starting rotation, it's okay. It's a lot better than I think we think it is. Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove, Dylan Cease, good 1, 2, 3. Michael King is a great 4 if you want to put him there. And then like Johnny Burrito and Randy Vasquez, whatever those guys, sure, to fill in the 5, that's fine. You can find a 5 starter. Bullpen wise, they got a fun little bullpen. Yuki Matsui, Robert Suarez, Enyel De Los Santos, Wandy, Woo-Suk Go. Tom Cosgrove was great. They've had a fun bullpen. And of course, the lineup. You've got Xander Bogaerts, Tatis, Machado. Ha-Sung Kim was fantastic. Keep an eye out for my boy Jackson Merrill. Looks like he's going to be starting at the major league level with a great spring. Cronenworth, like, they got a good team. I think the Padres can finish in third for sure. Second place in the AL West, just missing on the top spot. I got to go with the Arizona Diamondbacks, of course. They're just simply not the Dodgers, but I think this team is really good. Made it to the World Series last year, and they got better this offseason. You brought in Jock Peterson for a power left-handed bat at the DH spot. They desperately needed that. You brought in Eugenio Suarez to be a power bat and a good third baseman. You desperately needed that. On the pitching side, bringing in Eduardo Rodriguez, I think, is going to be huge for this rotation. Just another consistently good starter. And we saw the bullpen. Not a lot of big names, but it was great in the postseason. Paul Sewell, Kevin Ginkel, Miguel Castro, Andrew Salfrank, Joe Mantiply, Luis Frias. Even for some depth, like a guy like Grandal Grichuk would be good on this team. I love what the Diamondbacks are cooking in Arizona. This team is a second place team, and you will see them in the playoffs again. And then, of course, coming in first place is going to be the Dodgers. What is there to say about them? They're an all-star team. They're disgusting. I mean, Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, Max Muncy, James Out, Teoscar Hernandez. Disgusting lineup. And then I love their rotation front three, Tyler Glasnow, Yamamoto, and Bobby Miller. All three guys could be in the Cy Young conversation this year. Walker Buehler's coming back. Clayton Kershaw will come back at some point. Like, they're loaded at the pitching spot, and of course the bullpen's going to be great and disgusting. They're the best team in baseball. So before I announce who's going to make the playoffs and whatnot, I do want to announce the award winners. For Rookie of the Year, I'm going to go with Jackson Merrill. You heard me mention him earlier. I think he's going to break camp with the Padres, start in the outfield, and he's just a really good player. His odds right now to win the Rookie of the Year are out of control high, so if you can get on that action, you should. But he's a good player. Good bat-to-ball skills, gets on base, really good athlete. He's going to be playing almost every single day, I think, in San Diego. And for a team I think that's going to surprise a lot of people, he's going to be a big reason why. I really like his game. As for the Cy Young, I'm keeping it out west with the Dodgers, and I'm going with Tyler Glasnow. As long as he's healthy, I think if he gives us 160 innings, he wins the National League Cy Young. His stuff is disgusting. It's like a video game. It's all about the health. And the Dodgers do kind of have the ability sometimes to turn these guys around health-wise. And I think Tyler Glasnow could be that guy, so I'm going to give him the Cy Young. He's just the nastiest pitcher, arguably, in baseball. And then for the big one, the National League MVP, I'm going to give that one to Bryce Harper in Philly. If you saw what Bryce Harper did in the second half, after he finally started feeling healthy after Tommy John surgery, he was putting up the old Bryce Harper MVP video game type numbers, OPS around 1,000, hitting home runs left and right in Philadelphia. And that's going to be a team that's, of course, going to be competing for a playoff spot and a World Series spot. I think Bryce Harper's going to lead them definitely far this year. He's an absolute beast. Moving on to the American League now, let's get it started with the American League East. And for the AL East, getting us started in fifth place, I got to go with the Boston Red Sox again. Just not a very good team right now. I actually think they did make some improvements to this team in this lineup and this rotation. But overall, for a team that was last year and didn't really get much better, I don't know how you can put them higher. Like, yeah, grabbing Tyler O'Neill was great, and Tristan Casas is good, and Devers is good, and you have Story for a full season. But man, this bottom of the order, like Rafaela, Valdez, Connor Wong, a little bit shaky. And then on the pitching side, you have Nick Pivetta, Brian Bayo, Cutter Crawford, Tanner Houck, and Garrett Whitlock, which could be a decent rotation. Like, all these guys have stuff, but then you get into the bullpen, and it's like, I don't know what's going on here. So I don't think the Red Sox like stink. I think they'll probably win like 76, 77 games, but I have them in last place right now. I think very close to them coming in fourth place will end up being the Tampa Bay Rays again, and I want to cringe every time I put the Rays lower and lower, but this feels like the first year that maybe the Rays are not going to be that good. Losing Wander Franco is an absolute killer for them on the field. Off the field, good riddance, but on the field hurts them a ton because you go from Wander Franco to Jose Caballero, who low-key could be decent. Yes, you have Yandy. Yes, you have Brandon Lau, Randy Arozarena, Josh Lowe, Paredes, but I got to imagine some of these guys are going to take a little bit of a step back, and I have a weird feeling they're going to trade Randy at the deadline this year, especially if they're not completely competitive. This feels like a gap year for the Rays. Like, the pitching is still good with Eflin and Savali, but it seems like they're trying to figure out what they have this year rather than competing for an AL East crown. So I got to put them in fourth. Third place in the AL East, I'm going to go with the New York Yankees. This isn't me necessarily being a Yankees hater, but the fact that if Garrett Cole misses as much time as we think he might, I don't think the Yankees can make the playoffs, honestly, if you don't have Garrett Cole. Also, Aaron Judge is already complaining about being beat up in spring training. That's concerning. Maybe taking the massive injury-prone guy and putting him in center field isn't the best idea. If this team is fully healthy, they are probably the best team in the AL East. Maybe the best team in the American League. But missing Garrett Cole is a killer. That rotation all of a sudden went from, ooh, really good to, yikes, what's going on here? Bullpen, of course, will be great. I have no doubt about that. But this team is one injury away from becoming scary. And if that guy is Aaron Judge, it's detrimental. Like, yeah, you have Juan Soto, you got Verdugo. Those are better players than you had last year. And they're both good. Like, I expect Juan Soto to be an MVP candidate. I just got a weird feeling with the Yankees this year. It's not going to be good. It's getting started off with bad juju right now, and I think it continues. Second place in the AL East, I'm going to go north of the border. Shout out Jackson, my editor. We're going with the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't really actually like the Blue Jays team very much. I think this is a weird team. Kevin Gausman's a stud. Barrios, Bassett, Kikuchi, good 1 through 4. Still still missing a 5-starter, and I don't know how much better they got. Like, is Justin Turner an improvement off of what they had? They're going to play IKF every day. Like, bring up a Relvis Martinez, please. But you do still have Bichette, you still have Vlad Jr., you have George Springer. They have a good core there that makes them good enough to be in this top 2 spot, I think, in the AL East, along with a strong enough bullpen. So for me, I'll put them in second place. And then, of course, coming in first place, we've got the Baltimore Orioles. This could be the year for the Orioles. Grabbing Corbin Burns, adding him to that rotation changes a lot of things for them, because now you're looking at a rotation of Burns, Grayson Rodriguez, Dean Kramer, Tyler Wells, Cole Irvin, Kyle Bradish, John Means hopefully can come back and be healthy and make some appearances for them. You obviously love the lineup they have. Adley Rutschman, Cedric Mullins, Gunnar Henderson, Santander. Jackson Holliday is going to get called up at some point. Ryan Mountcastle's good. Like, there's not really a weak point in this offense. I think they're just the best team in this division. And even missing Felix Bautista, this bullpen's still going to be great. Moving on to the AL Central. This is a division that's a bit of a toss-up for me. But what's not a toss-up is the White Sox coming in last, 5th place. Yeah, the White Sox stink. This is going to give the A's a run for their money as the worst team in baseball. The one difference is they still have Luis Robert, they still have Moncada, they still have Benintendi. Like, those are good major league players. Significantly better than what the A's have. But it's quite the drop-off after that, and a rotation of Eric Fetty, Mike Soroka, Chris Flexen, Garrett Crochet, and Nick Nastrini as projected by Fangraphs, along with a bullpen that's being headlined by Steven Wilson and John Brebbia. This is concerningly bad. I don't even really want to talk much about them. I think if there's any good players, they should look to trade them, start the rebuild now. In 4th place, dropping them down a little bit, I've got the Cleveland Guardians. This is a team that just doesn't feel ready right now for me to be one of the best teams in this division. Again, weak division. These teams are all going to be clumped together from 4th to 1st. I think pretty close, like a difference of 7 or 8 games maybe from 1st and 4th place. And as good as Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor and Andres Jimenez are, I just don't think there's enough on this offensive side for the Guardians to be very good, especially when the pitching, I love Tanner Bybee, I love Gavin Williams. We did get some elbow discomfort out of Gavin Williams recently, so a little concerned. Shane Bieber is concerning, how he's just dropped in velo every single year. The bullpen will be great, but I don't know if it's going to be fantastic. They kind of need everything to go right, and I just don't see that happening. 3rd place, aggressive. I wanted to put them in 1st, but let's be honest, that's crazy. I'm going with the Kansas City Royals. I think they're going to be close to 1st place. I don't think they're going to get there, but they will be a competitive team this year. MJ Melendez was great in the second half. Bobby Witt Jr., MVP candidate. Vinny Pasquantino's back. Salvador Perez is still a stud. I love him. Nick Prado will be a good DH. Hunter Renfroe is a major leaguer. Michael Garcia, I think, could have a breakout season. And on the pitching side, like, I low-key love what they did with the rotation. Cole Reagan, Cy Young candidate. Seth Lugo's great. Michael Wacha was good. Brady Singer, pushing back in the rotation can be strong. The problem is, if anybody gets hurt, this team is dead. They have no minor league depth whatsoever, and the bullpen is a major question mark filled with a bunch of guys you've never heard of. But I don't know. I like to go crazy with this one in the AL Central. Who cares? In 2nd place in the AL Central, I'm going to go with the Detroit Tigers. I know it's the trendy pick to pick them to win the division, and I'm telling you, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm close. But the difference maker for them, and I can't even understate this, is going to be Javier Baez. Will Javi Baez be a Major League Baseball player, or will he be one of the worst players in the league? If he's a major leaguer, they can win the division easily. If he's playing like he has the last couple seasons and how he has in spring, they're going to struggle. They need him. But Riley Green, Torkelson, Carpenter, Cole Keith, I love the addition of Mark Canha, a great veteran to add to this lineup. Strong lineup 1 through 9. On the pitching side, Tarek Skubal's fantastic. Cy Young candidate as long as he's healthy. Jack Flaherty, Maeda will be good innings eaters. Reese Olson as well. Decent 5. Matt Manning has looked decent in spring. I won't believe in him just yet, but has looked decent. And they keep an eye out on their farm system. You've got Wilmer Flores. You got Sawyer Gibson Long. You've got Jackson Jobe, who might get called up this year. He's looking fantastic. And Casey Mize, bounce back candidate coming off that Tommy John surgery. This is a team that's playoff contending, but I have them finishing in 2nd right now. And then coming in 1st place in the AL Central, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Twins. As much as I love to doubt the Twins and Rocco Baldelli, I can't do it. They're just good. Lineup 1 through 9, really solid. Edouard Julien, Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton, Royce Lewis, who I love. I got to buy a Royce Lewis jersey. Max Kepler, Carlos Santana. Wallner could hit like 35 home runs this year. Ryan Jeffers, Alex Kirilloff. Good bench with Willie Castro, Manuel Margot. The starting pitching is great. Pablo Lopez, disgusting. Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, Chris Paddock, Louis Varland. I love this rotation, and the bullpen is disgusting, locking it down with Griffin Jackson, Yohan Duran. This team could make some noise this year. This might be one of the better Twins teams we've seen in a while. They're going to win the AL Central. Now, for the last division in baseball, we've got the American League West, and getting it started in 5th place is the A's. What is there to talk about the A's? You know, I'm going to be positive about them. Owner should sell the team, and I won't talk about how terrible they are because we know. Let's highlight some players I like. Love Zach Geloff. Looks great. Really fun player. Can do a lot offensively and defensively for this team. They just signed J.D. Davis. That's a good pickup. Someone that, at the absolute worst, they're probably going to trade at the deadline and flip for a prospect or two. On the pitching side, Mason Miller has the ability to just become a lights-out closer. Joe Boyle looked really good in his last few starts with them last season. And they've got some prospect outfielders I think that could get a call up that you could find out what they've got. There's like Lazaro Armenteros, Denzel Clark. So yeah, they're going to stink, but not maybe as much as they have the last couple seasons. 4th place in this division, I mean, it's got to be the Angels. This team also stinks, relatively speaking. Shout out Mike Trout and think he's going to have a great bounce back season, which sounds kind of weird to say, but he's going to be healthy this year. I hope. I pray. And that's about it for this lineup. I mean, I like Drury. I like Taylor Ward, but that's about it. Logan O'Hoppe. Actually, I lied. I like Logan O'Hoppe a lot. I do like Zach Neto. I just don't know how much they really help this lineup in total of like not being a fourth place team. On the pitching side, yeah, I just don't believe in the Angels pitching development. Reed Detmers could be good. Griffin Canning could be good. Sandoval could be good. Silseth could be decent, but I just don't know if the Angels get any more than they have out of them. And that bullpen is a mess, especially with Robert Stevenson probably starting off the season hurt. Like, oh, Angels, I'm so sorry, Mike Trout. Please request a trade. Third place in the American League West, I'm going with the Seattle Mariners. Now, I know I have them finishing in third place, but I kind of like what the Mariners are cooking with this year. I love the addition of Jorge Polanco to this lineup. Really, really good addition. And I know they're going to be rocking with guys like Dominic Canzone and Josh Rojas a lot, but they're going to kind of play those spots platoony. Luke Raley was a great pickup from the Rays. On top of Julio Rodriguez, JP Crawford, Mitch Garver was great. Cal Raleigh, big dumper, is awesome. But here's where they shine. It's on the pitching. Best rotation in baseball. Castillo, Gilbert, Kirby, Bryce Miller, Brian Wu. Disgusting. I mean, you have three guys who can win the Cy Young in this rotation right now. And the bullpen is nasty with Andres Munoz, filthy. Ryan Stanek was a great pickup. These names might not be sexy to you, but they have some arms. And if Matt Brash or Gregory Santos pitch this year, oh baby, this bullpen's even better. This division's loaded though. That's why I have them in third, but they're going to win a lot of games, like 88 type stuff. Second place, I'm going with the defending World Series champions, Texas Rangers. They're going to start the year, I think, a little bit slow, a little bit of that World Series hangover, along with the fact that their starting pitching is a little bit rough right now. But they should possibly get Jacob deGrom back at some point this year. They should get Max Scherzer back at some point this year. Maybe even Tyler Mahle back at some point this year. That would change how this team feels. Yes, Corey Seager and Nathaniel Lowe are hurt on the offensive side, but this lineup is still just so loaded. Simeon, Evan Carter, Wyatt Langford, Adolis Garcia, Jonah Heim, Josh Young, Leody Taveras. The list goes on. And the bullpen, grabbing a guy like David Robertson and Kirby Yates, those are big improvements to a bullpen that needed help. So for me, they're still a very good team, second place. But of course, in first place in the AL West, I'm still going with the Houston Astros. Right now, still really good because you still have that core of Altuve, Yordan, Bregman, Kyle Tucker. That's just one of the best in all of baseball. Jose Abreu started to look better as the year went on. Yainer Diaz is a great catcher, good power. Chas McCormick, Jeremy Pena are great bottom of the order guys. And on the pitching side, Justin Verlander, he'll come back at some point. Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, Hunter Brown, good 1, 2, 3, 4. Bullpen is disgusting with Hader, Presley, Abreu. I mean, what? Luis Garcia should be coming back at some point. Lance McCullers should be coming back at some point. Jose Urquidy. This team just has depth out the ass, and that's why I think they're going to win the division. They just have a lot of really good players. They have a ton of injuries, and they still are disgusting. Now for the awards in the American League. Winning the Rookie of the Year, I'm going to keep it in the AL West, and I'm going with Wyatt Langford. Have you seen what this dude's done? In the minors, he was disgusting, and so far in spring training, he's been disgusting. In spring so far, 39 plate appearances, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, hitting .375 with a .462 on base, .781 slugging for a .1243 OPS. Just call him up, start him on opening day. He's amazing, and he should be the Rookie of the Year. For the American League Cy Young, I'm going to go to the Central Minnesota Twins, Pablo Lopez. If you've heard me talk about him on my podcast or even just any of these videos, you know how big of a Pablo Lopez fan I am. He's absolutely filthy. He has the ability to be one of the best pitchers in baseball this year. He's only 27, 28 years old, and last year he was incredible. So keep an eye out for him. That slider, that sweeper is disgusting. The fastball's great in a weaker division as well. I think he has the ability to win the Cy Young this year. And then winning the American League MVP, even though he's on a terrible team, I think it's going to be Mike Trout again. I think we see him bounce back to that 1,000 OPS player that he's been. As long as he's healthy, I don't really know how Mike Trout doesn't win it. He is so good. The problem has always been his health. But otherwise at the plate, he hasn't slowed down almost at all. So I'm going to believe in Mike Trout to be healthy this year and win the MVP. Now for the playoff seeding. In the American League, here's how it's going to look. Astros, number 1 seed. Orioles, number 2. Twins, number 3. And then the 3 wildcard teams are going to be the Rangers as the top seeded wildcard, the Mariners at number 5, and then the Detroit Tigers at number 6. As for the wildcard round in the American League, the Twins will match up against the Tigers. I have the Twins moving on. The Tigers had a great run, but I think the Twins end up getting the best of them just because that starting pitching's so good. And then we've got the Rangers versus the Mariners, another divisional matchup, and I've got the Mariners moving on here. Again, it depends if DeGrom and Scherzer and all these guys are going to be healthy. That could change things. But the Mariners are also still really good, so I'm going to move the Mariners on. For the ALDS, we've got the Astros matching up against the Seattle Mariners, and the Orioles going up against the Twins. I've got the Mariners moving on against the Astros. Again, this pitching is so good. I know the Astros are great, but I got a feeling about the Mariners this year. I really do, that this could be their year where they make a run, and they make some moves at the deadline and get some good players, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, with this pitching in that bullpen, this is the best team in baseball maybe, besides the Dodgers. And then with the Orioles and Twins, I've got the Orioles moving on. This team is great. Young talent, Jackson Holiday is going to come up, fix that shortstop hole, and the pitching's really good with a good bullpen. Love this team. As for the ALCS between the Orioles and the Mariners, call me crazy. I'm going with the Seattle Mariners here, guys. I think the Mariners are making a World Series run. The pitching, the bullpen, the lineup. Julio Rodriguez is going to be an MVP candidate. JP Crawford's been great. Everything just is pointing me to believe that this could be the Mariners season. I've got them moving on to the World Series. Now, let's go find out who they're going to face. As for the National League playoff seeding, here's how it goes. Dodgers 1, Braves 2, Cubs 3 as the division winners. And then for the wild card, we've got 4, the Diamondbacks as the top seed wild card, 5, the Philadelphia Phillies, and then 6, the San Diego Padres. Yes, I've got the Padres making the playoffs. I think they're a playoff team. And you might be saying, no Mets? If you force me to make a pick, yeah, I think the Mets are not making the playoffs, and that hurts, but it's called growth. Can't call me biased this year. It's not why I did it. I just genuinely don't believe they're going to make the playoffs right now. As for the wild card matchup, first one, Cubs versus the Padres, 3 versus the 6. I've got the Padres moving on. I just think their pitching is going to be a little bit better, and that lineup is scary, scary good. For the second wild card series, you got the Diamondbacks versus the Phillies, a little bit of an NLCS rematch, and I've got the Diamondbacks moving on again. I think the Diamondbacks are a really good team, a sneaky good team this year. They could make another World Series run. Moving to the NLDS, we've got the Dodgers versus the Diamondbacks in the first NLDS series, and unfortunately, the Diamondbacks run ends there. The Diamondbacks got the better of them last year, but the Dodgers team is just so disgusting. As long as they're healthy and there's no injuries, there's no problems, I don't know. How do they lose? How do they lose? They're moving on to the NLCS, and then we've got the Braves versus the Padres in a 2 versus 6 matchup in the NLDS, and I've got the Braves moving on to the next round. They're just disgusting. In the NLCS, the Dodgers versus the Braves, I think this is a 7-game series, but ultimately, I think the Braves end up taking this one. One thing that scares me about the Dodgers is I don't know if they're built for playoff baseball. They're going to be playing not that great of defense, and their pitching, I will say, as the season goes on later and later, these are guys with not a lot of great healthy innings underneath their belt right now. That concerns me. If they made the World Series, I don't think it's crazy, but I think the Braves right now are more built to win the World Series than the Dodgers, if that makes sense. At this exact moment, sneaky good depth on the Braves. I'm going with the Braves to go to the World Series. So we've got the Braves versus the Mariners in the World Series. Who do I think is going to win? I think this series is going to go 6 games, and ultimately, let me get a drum roll, please there, Jackson, winning the 2024 Major League Baseball World Series in 6 games. I'm going with the Atlanta Braves. Yep, I think the Braves are the second best team in baseball on paper, and I think in terms of winning the World Series, they should be the favorites. I understand why the Dodgers are, but the way that this Braves team and organization is built right now, they are win now and they are ready to go, and they arguably are the best team. Like, yeah, the Dodgers are an all-star lineup, but this Braves team, this lineup's crazy. Ronald Acuna, Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley. I don't like the guy, but Marcell Ozuna hit like 40 home runs last year. Michael Harris is disgusting. Sean Murphy, one of the best catchers. Jared Kelenic, I think, is going to break out. Orlando Arcia is a perfectly fine 9-hitter that they can improve on. On the pitching side, Strider, Fried, Morton, Chris Sale, Ronaldo Lopez. You have guys waiting in the minors that I think can really help on this rotation too. Guys like AJ Smith-Shawver, Bryce Elder, Hurston Waldrop, I think is going to get called up. He's fantastic. This team is really good. Their bullpen is sneaky good, and I genuinely think, like, this pains me as a Mets fan to say this. I hate this shit, but I think the Braves win the World Series. If they don't, and the Dodgers don't win the World Series, I really like this Mariners team. But right now, the Atlanta Braves are your 2024 World Series champion, in my opinion. I'd love to know what you guys are thinking about my predictions down in the comment section below. Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them? Yell at me. Do whatever you want. But also, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel as well if you enjoy baseball content. You know we're coming at you. So I do appreciate all of you that continue to support me as we keep going through this season. Follow me on all my social media. GiraffeNeckMarc links are in description. That's where I'll wrap up today's video. You guys know the drill from here on out. YouTube recommends you watch this video. This is my most recent upload. Click through those if you have not yet seen them. Thank you guys so much for watching. Can't wait for the season, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.